All right. So game two of Appmon versus Magnamon. This is just a game at locals. My opponent's learning how to play against this deck, and I'm learning how to play it. So I'm gonna go first. I don't draw any level threes, but I do draw two app links, so I'm gonna use those to start getting some searches in. Off the first app link, I do pull a Navimon, so now I have a level three. I can start setting up to do my Gotchmon and Haru plays, and then my Digivolutions later. It's my opponent's turn. He starts off with hatching and then digivolving into Vmon. And then he's trying to figure out how best to keep me from going off and setting himself up to doing other plays. So we're going to start off with the blue memory boost. And I see he pulls the Vmon off that. So that makes me think he probably has the Magnamon in hand if he's not searching it. And then next up is the blue training, or forgot what the actual name of that thing is. But off that training, he's going to pull the Magnamon. And so now I know he has those in hand. I'm going to start my turn, Digivolve into my Navimon that I pulled from the app link, and then I'm going to just play another app link to search. And now I see the Gotchmon in there, so that's just another piece that I need. The Timon and Trash is pretty important because I'll need to probably pull stuff like Timon and Charismon back with my Gossipmon. Now it's my opponent's turn. So he only has one memory, which isn't a lot, but he's going to try to go for some early aggression here. Luckily, he has the training and the memory boost, and he pops the training to Digivolve into Magnamon for one cost. I know the Vmon has some sort of memory game, but I think it has to be the other Digimon. I'm not 100% sure how it works. So if there was a misplay there, I wouldn't know it. But he does swing with the Magnamon for some early aggression. He hits my Haru. And then he goes into his Magna X. Try to get that out on the field as early as possible. I don't know why he doesn't do the blue memory boost, pop that to gain some memory, but I guess he has other plans for it later. But now he has a Magna on field early. I don't really have anything, so now I have to kind of figure out how to deal with that while setting up my pieces. But I start at 5 memories, so that's plenty to do some sort of plays. Now I just want to see how I want to do this. So this most likely, I'm going to do less app linking and more digivolving, hard digivolving. Digivolving a Gossipmon for 2. Gossimon's going to let me add a Appmon from trash back to hand. And I'm going to choose Charismon. And then, like last game, I'm just going to try to have more DP than my opponent, so that way he won't have to, or that way he won't be able to block. And just trying to figure out how to get there right now. And so I decided to go with Globemon. Globemon will go ahead and link a level 3 from hand or sources whenever it's digivolved. And I'm going to choose Watchmon. Swipemon will draw, and then it will stun the Magnamon X. End of turn will app link, which allows me to link a Appmon from hand into one of my Digimon. So I'm going to choose Charismon, which will trigger the Haru. Haru will draw, and then we'll app fuse for free. So this is how we get into the Gaiamon. Now I'm just trying to figure out how I want to do this. Gaiamon will go ahead on to Evolution, add the Charismon, so give him some sort of protection. And now my opponent is stunned. He can't attack me directly. If my Gaimon were suspended, then he'd be able to attack that. So even if I did have the Dogachmon, that probably wasn't the safest player. Why would unsuspend? So I guess that didn't really matter. I might have actually been able to, instead of using Globemon, gone into Charismon instead and forced his Magnamon X to attack. So that's also a very viable play. It either works. really. The protection is good. I know my opponent doesn't have anything to completely overpower me. And I think now they're just trying to figure out how they want to deal with this situation. So to play another memory boost. Seeing him bottom deck all the cool boys in this game is perfect. Now I know he can't do those Megamon plays later, even if he did have the Magnamon X or Omnimon X. So Digivolve into Gotchmon starts setting up a play for later. And now I can start going off into my attacks and trashing security and all that. So we'll swing with Gaimon. Now I just have to figure out how the Magnamon X works. So there's a little interaction between us trying to figure out essentially how does Armor Purge work, or if it's some other effect because like the old X-Anti Magnamon trashed itself from the top of the Digimon and then put itself on top of security or did something along those lines. And I want to make sure that I don't give my opponent too much opportunity on his next turn. But yeah, so we're going to swing with the Gaimon. Gaimon will put Globemon from his sources underneath him to unsuspend and trash the top of my opponent's security. Now, the Magnamon doesn't have any protection, so the Globemon does pop the X antibody. So it helps to get rid of a piece and then hits on a Mechamon with the swing. I still have another swing, but if he were to get bigger than me, he'd be able to delete it. I do have the protection from Charismon, so I'm just going to go ahead and swing again. And then we'll use Gaimon again. Unfortunately, it doesn't unsuspend, but it de-digivolves the Magnamon one more time. So pretty good play. And my opponent asked me if these things count as sources, which makes me think that he either has the D-Digivolve Bounce Magnamon or he has Zudomon Ace, for example. I really don't know, but when your opponent starts asking questions like that, I'm pretty sure he has something going on. Now that I think about it, I hope I remembered the draw of Swipemon. Really got to remember that. I also could have drawn off the Haru. Again, just these misplays, just these things that you catch while you're learning. But we'll play the Gossamon. Gossamon will get us back Globemon for plays later. And so my opponent will pop both the memory boosts, put them at 5. Which I guess there was some value for waiting. But then he did Digivolve into the Black Blue Magna. And then, he'll just he'll strip my Charismon. Charismon will protect itself, or he'll strip my Gaimon, but it'll protect itself with the Charismon source. And now he has those two Magnas out. Pretty smart way to get rid of my board. De-Digivolving really does hurt me as well, but the source strip doesn't do too much if I have the Charismon already under. In this case, I did. So, oh wow, another cool boy. He had 4 this whole time. But yeah, if you don't have the Charismon as your sources, that double Magnamon play does really hurt. Now we're gonna do Gotchmon, link the Navimon, so we can go ahead and play another Haru. And now we can't play any more Harus for free off that Gotchmon effect, but we'll go ahead and start doing some more plays. My opponent has 2 sources left. Looking at this, a part of me does feel like he may have the ace, Zazuto ace. I'm not 100% sure. So that's where I'm trying to think if I want to draw and fuse and do all that off the Gotchmon. So we're going to go ahead and fuse into Dogotch. So that's a cost of 0. And we're going to try to end the game on this turn, if not as close as possible to this turn. So I don't have Timon in hand, which means that I can't link and fuse again. But at this point, I already have a Gaimon on field. So I'll just go into Globemon for cost of 4. And now I'll start using Globemon in order to start popping his Magna. And then Globemon will link the Gossipmon on Digivolve. And Gossipmon, when linking, will go ahead and give me back a body. And I choose Timon. And now with Globemon, I can pop one of his Digimon, start clearing his board. And now that it's the end of turn, I can use Applink. Applink will allow me to put Charismon under my Globemon, which the Haru will allow me to get the draw and then Appfuse for free. Which go ahead and triggers all my plays with my other Gaimon. Now, I use the Haru kind of in the wrong timing there because Gaimon's the newest Digimon out on the field, so its effects probably would have triggered first. But yeah, that doesn't really change too much unless my opponent were to rule shark me, for example. But it all ended the same way. And so my opponent has 2 level 3s, the Cool Boy and the Training. Trying to see what they're going to do here. I mean, with 2 of these bodies on field, there's not a lot. And then so my opponent would Digivolve using the Training for the Magnamon. And then, okay, so yeah, that Vmon, whenever another Digimon would Digivolve, you gain the memory. And then Cool Boy will also gain a memory and a draw. And so now that Magnamon is beefy. But I think at this point, my opponent's just trying to clear my board or at least get rid of the Gaimons. For the most part, I kind of got this game. My opponent is thinking, see what he can do in these sorts of situations. And he does kind of come up with a good play. So he goes ahead and Death X's, which will at least de-digivolve my current Gaiamon. Now, because he de-digivolved the Gaiamon, I no longer have the link +1. So I did have to remove a source. I chose to remove the Dogotch. But unfortunately, I have the other Gaia in hand, so I just go into this other Gaia, and that's game at that point. Good game, guys.